connecting Arizona. This is 12 News at 10.
American security experts have long suspected that in the post-9/11 world, terrorists likely wouldn't try for another big strike, but rather would focus on soft targets like the funeral or the shopping mall. And if it's happening there, could it happen here? We're joined tonight by security expert Paul Penzone and also psychiatrist Dr. Michael Yasinski. Paul, I want to start with you. Do you think the concern about soft target strikes in the U.S. is valid?
Absolutely. I mean, every day I work with organizations and groups who are concerned for their safety, and these are people who normally should not be in the line of fire. These are the types of organizations that just do, responsible business and try to go about what they do and serve the public, yet they have to fear for these issues.
We saw what happened in Nairobi, and we saw what happened also at the Navy Yard this week. That's a military facility. 13 dead, Aurora, Colorado. Sandy Hook. It's happening in the U.S. Dr. Paul Yasinski, as we move ahead, how much more do you think Americans are willing to give up, are willing to trade in return for security?
You know, I think this constant cycle, it almost seems like we alternate one time's terrorism, then it's severe mental illness, back and forth. And, the more coverage this gets lately and people witness this stuff on TV, I think it's disgusting to some people. However, it tends to feed these terrorists, for example, who live on seeing people suffer. And so unfortunately, the more of these happen, feeds the terrorism, and yet the more sick of it we get. I think we've had it already, but I'm not sure there's an easy answer to put an end to it.
Paul, when it comes to soft targets, so far we've never seen a major sporting event or a concert hit something like that. That's what I worry about. If you're at a big event like that, how vulnerable are you, and what can you do to protect yourself if the unthinkable happens?
The key is mitigation. I think what we saw in Boston just shows exactly how vulnerable we are. And I can tell you a lot in those industries, a lot of folks that lead those industries recognize that they could be targets, and they're taking action now. So it's really about how can you do as much as possible to create layers of safety? How can you do some training for your staff to mitigate any issues, and then just be prepared that you could be a target even though you shouldn't be. I mean, these are the ones that are most vulnerable and have no reason to be in the line of fire.
Are you surprised we haven't seen an attack at a big sporting event yet? I mean, people aren't going through metal detectors there. They may be frisked, but for the people look in purses, but beyond that, who knows what could happen?
Well, I think as the doctor was stating, what happens is as you see vulnerabilities and as you see these things occur more often, it gives courage to those who are cowardly. Let's be honest, they're targeting people who don't pose any threat whatsoever to them. It's not as though they're targeting military installations or other places. They're targeting people who want to live in a free world safely. And yes, these are targets that we know in the future may likely rise to the higher levels, and we have to be prepared for that.
Doctor, real quickly, we're running out of time, but take us inside the mind of these shooters like Kenya or the Pakistan church attack. Are these likely people who've been programmed to be violent and to be willing to die for their cause? And how much tougher are those people to deal with and identify than someone who's, say, paranoid schizophrenic, as we saw at the Navy Yard or in Aurora, Colorado?
Well, someone truly violent in terrorism tends to have disregard for human life, a lot of hatred, and those people are tough to change. Someone mentally ill in a state of psychosis or loss of touch with reality, you can treat them and they can become perfectly fine and pose no risk. So two very different populations, but both severe risks if not dealt with accordingly.
Paul Penzone, Dr. Yasinski, thank you both for coming down tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.